There were several big victories in Tuesday night's primaries, but perhaps one of the most notable was from that man right there, the one confronting Ron DeSantis. His name is Maxwell Frost. He's now officially the Democratic nominee in Florida's 10th district, and he could very well be the first Gen Z member of Congress. On the surface, he might not fit the typical mold of a politician. He's just 25 years old, a part-time Uber driver, hasn't finished college, and has never held public office. But as he told NBC's Chuck Todd and Kristen Welker Tuesday night, Frost doesn't think any of that will hold him back.
I'm the former national organizing director for March for Our Lives, a movement that helped change the way we think about gun violence, the way we think about advocacy. And I'm going to take what I learned at March for Our Lives, take what I learned at the ACLU, bring it to Congress, but also keep it here in Florida as we build power to ensure that we can flip this state, that we can bring people together behind shared values, and that, yes, there's a young face that is doing that work, but that's okay. We need a diversity of, yes, race, yes, opinion, but also age.
Joining me now is Maxwell Frost, the Democratic nominee for Congress from Florida's 10th district. And as a former Floridian, I'm proud of you, young man. I love seeing the youngs get in there and fight. And I can March for Our Lives, I think, is one of the most important movements in modern American history. So I'm glad that a member of that tribe has gotten somewhere big. And listen, at the end of that clip that we showed, the governor said, nobody wants to hear from you. Apparently that wasn't true. How did you win and beat all these other more seasoned candidates?
Well, thanks for having me on. You know, it all has to do with our message, and it has to do with our message in the moment in time we're in right now. You know, we have to think about the context of what's going on in Florida and what's been going on for this past year. That governor, that bully, who has, because of his failure to handle systemic issues here, from affordable housing to gun violence, he is taking these issues and saying, guess what? It's not my fault. It's the fault of the LGBTQ plus community. It's the fault of immigrants. It's the fault of Black folks. He's scapegoating the most vulnerable communities because he has failed to bring the bold transformational change Floridians need. And so in the midst of all that, in the midst of the Don't Say Gay, Don't Say LGBTQ plus law, in the midst of the Stop Woke Act, this campaign, I truly believe, has provided hope and a way forward because it's all about love. Because when you love somebody, you want them to have health care, their rights, the right to an abortion, affordable housing. And when people hear that message, they say, that's true. And it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, it's about the people versus the problem.
Have you had an opportunity to talk with Val Demings, as you would succeed Val Demings, who obviously is a seasoned politician, former sheriff, you know, she's the police, she's done all of these different things. Have you talked to her about what it's like in Congress, what the life is like?
Yes, my first meeting with her months back, you know, we spoke about what it's like in Congress, what it's like to work both across the aisle and within the party to get things done. And she gave me a call the night of my victory. And, you know, I told her, put me to work, right? We need her in the U.S. Senate. We need Charlie Crist to replace Ron DeSantis, because we need all eyes here on Florida. We need to stop Ron DeSantis because he's looking to run for president. You and I both know that he's not interested in governing. And that's why this election is so important. So we need people to put their resources here in Florida, put their time here in Florida so we can build power. We're not just a red state. We're a state full of millions of poor and working class families just crying out for champions and help.
Miami's one of the poorest big cities in America, by the way. You mentioned Ron DeSantis. Let's play him. He's already gone after Orlando Disney, which would be your constituent, and try and strip them of their tax benefits, which is a huge tax increase for what would be your constituents. But here he is going after Anthony Fauci in one of the most weird and odd and vicious ways I've seen ever. Take a look.
You have people like Fauci saying that his lockdowns didn't cause any permanent damage to any young kids. I got news for you, it did, and we are going to reap those rewards across the whole country for years and years and years because they treated kids so poorly. And I'm just sick of seeing him. I know he says he's going to retire. Someone needs to grab that little elf and chuck him across the Potomac.
I'm pretty sure he's about 5'7", so I don't know who he's calling a little elf. And he had that big head helmet on, so I don't know why he thinks he can talk about other people. But your thoughts? I mean, you drove an Uber, and that is one of the most vulnerable positions to COVID. It's one of those frontline positions that was vulnerable. You're almost the age where you could be in school still. Kids die of COVID. Kids get sick. Kids were threatened by COVID. What do you make of his attitude?
Again, it's him scapegoating someone else, passing the problem on to someone else because he failed to keep Floridians safe from COVID. He's failed to do meaningful things on monkeypox. I mean, he is someone who's been a kind of a backseat driver on a lot of these issues and not being the leader we need. And it's interesting that he brings up protecting children. What about the LGBTQ plus queer children that he's casting out and wanting to erase with the Don't Say Gay bill? What about the children who are dying from gun violence, a generation that has been through more mass shooting drills than fire drills? What about those children? The leading cause of death recently went from automobile accidents to guns. And so it's hypocrisy in broad daylight, and the people will see through it. And that's why we're gonna put him on blast. We're gonna make sure everyone knows the liar he is. But aside from that, it's not just about telling people how bad DeSantis is. It's about giving people something to vote for, not just against. And it's about this agenda that's about everything and everyone.
Yeah, between him and Rick Scott, who's tweeting from a yacht about people not deserving to have student loan relief. Last thing I'm going to put up just for our audience. This is a chart I want to show you guys. This is the representation of age groups in Congress right now. The most represented group is between 60 and 69. And I ain't nothing wrong with a seasoned person. I love a seasoned person. But you would be in that top little small chart where there's almost no people. Why do you think it's important for young people to do what you're doing and get involved in politics?
Well, it's important that we have a government and that we have a Congress that looks like the country, that has different experiences and different ages. And, my generation is just going through some different challenges than older folks did when they were younger. And that's okay, right? We need a Congress that has older people, younger people, everybody. So when we come to the table to talk about student debt relief, guess what? There's a younger voice there who understands the challenges now, the crushing debt that happens to our students, traditionally Black and brown folks, people who look like me. And bringing that perspective to the table. Imagine how government would work if it had more survivors of gun violence, if it had more people who have debt, who had people who had to Uber to pay their bills and do different things like that, right? We need more working class people in government who can bring that perspective. And outside of DC, I'm going to be committed to building power and building a government that looks like the country. Young,
Afro-Latino, smart, hardworking, representing in terms of trying to solve gun violence. You're an impressive young man. I hope that I can come hang out with you when I come down to Florida. We want to do some shows out of Florida, so I'm going to check you out when we get there, man. Congratulations.
Please come down.
Luck. All right,
well, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Matthew Frost. Remember that name, y'all. He's a star.